Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 381. What's up, everybody? So, we are about, 2 hours away from Christmas being over, and under the circumstances, I had a pretty amazing day. I got to spend the day over at my parents' house with my mom and my dad, my amazing girlfriend. My uncle was over. It was a good time, just a few of us, 6, 7 of us. And it was not the usual, right? Not what I'm used to. I mean, this is the first time in my 41 years of life that it's been calm and not chaotic and a bunch of different family members not around. My little sister didn't even fly in from Omaha. So it was real chill and it was a bit weird, but again, I try to look for the silver lining, and at least I got to spend it with my parents and my amazing soulmate. And we were able to, do our gift exchange and keep to some of the traditions that we're used to, obviously, before we were all destroyed by this COVID pandemic. So we got to keep to some of the old traditions that we always kept to, some of the same foods, a bunch of Italian food. I definitely needed stretchy pants today. And it was, another Christmas in the books, huh, folks? I hope that all of you got to spend time with your family as well today, as much as possible, right? I know there are restrictions around the world. I know London was locked down. I know elsewhere there are some serious lockdowns. Here around the States even, there are some serious lockdowns. We in Las Vegas are not involved in a lockdown or a shutdown, but it was still a weird situation because even without the lockdown, a lot of people weren't going to push the limits and have a bunch of family over and all of that jazz. So I can't even imagine what it would be like to truly be under some sort of lockdown for Christmas. Like I wouldn't even been able to finish my Christmas shopping with my all the procrastination I was engaging in. So hopefully this is the last Christmas that we'll have to deal with something like this, right? It's been brutal. It's been tough on everybody. I know mentally it's taking a toll on a lot of people. I have friends who have worked in the entertainment business for decades, and some of the most successful people you could possibly imagine, people that have been out on tour with some of the hugest, most gigantic bands in the whole entire world. And these people only know how to do that sort of job, right? And they're really good at it. This isn't just, I shouldn't even say a job, this is a career. And things have been so hard for some of these people. I know for a fact that some of them have even contemplated suicide. And that's scary, right? Because there are all sorts of other factors that go along with these kind of lockdowns that have to be taken into account. And I don't have the answers, that's for sure. I'm not a doctor. I'll never offer advice to anyone about their health or what they should do. But there has to be some sort of, a situation where we're looking at a brighter day, I would hope, where we could get back to normal. And hopefully this vaccine is a step in the right direction. But I'll tell you what, it's rough, folks, right? So hopefully everybody that was fortunate enough to be around some family and friends today was able to do that. And you were able to enjoy your Christmas a little bit, because it's the little things right now that matter, right? I mean, we have no control over this crazy shit, what our governments do for the most part, obviously, right? They're in charge. They forget that they work for us. If they decide that they're going to lock you down, short of some kind of, civil disobedience and deciding to ignore them, then everybody's going to get locked down, right? But all we could do is react to the situations that we're put in. And like I said previously a few weeks ago, I've been trying to look for the silver lining in all of this. And I just hope that moving forward, that people have some more hope on the horizon, right? And that it's not as bleak. But I think moving forward into 2021 and as the year progresses, I think that there will be a lot more hope on the horizon. At least I hope so. One thing that is for sure, though, the dirtbag that we're going to talk about tonight, well, that scumbag hopefully has no hope on the horizon. And who I mean by that is Mr. Jean Luc Brunel. We have an article tonight from 2015 that we're going to dive into in a second. And it's the article that talks about how Jean Luc Brunel was suing Jeffrey Epstein and how he was claiming that Jeffrey Epstein's behavior is the reason that he was suffering and losing business, etc., etc. The audacity of this scumbag, right? This guy, now we all know Epstein was a piece of trash, human excrement. But Jean-Luc Brunel is not a better man, right? And he was acting like Epstein's reputation was what was sinking him, when in reality, it was the allegations against him that was sinking him. You know, we're not talking about a guy that was just hanging out with Epstein, right? We're talking about a man who was accused of partaking in his sex trafficking ring, and he was accused by other girls and models throughout the years of sexual assault and abuse and all kinds of other stuff. So, with the news being slow today, obviously, it being Christmas like I knew it would be, I figured I would go into the archive and we'd yank this article out and we'd add it to the catalog because it's absurd. It is absolutely absurd, folks, that this guy, Jean Luc Brunel, would think for a moment anyone should feel sorry for him, especially now, 6 years later, basically, with us having hindsight as a benefit, right? We could use, we know what Brunel was up to. We know that Brunel is in jail now. And now when we use hindsight to look back at this, it's hilarious to think that this idiot really thought this narrative was going to work. That the cover of him saying, well, I'm suing Jeffrey Epstein, was really going to work. Like that was going to change the allegations made against him. Never going to happen. So on this Christmas day, which I hope was fantastic for all of you, we're going to dive into this article from the Daily Beast, and we're going to read about this moron and his attempts to sue Jeffrey Epstein over his reputation being destroyed. This article was published by the Daily Beast on March 26th of 2015. The author of this article, M.L. Nestle. Headline: Model King Jean Luc Brunel sues billionaire perv pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The modeling agency Kingpin, who allegedly teamed up with pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein to supply his underage beauties, is broke and he wants payback. Well, guess what? You got all the payback you're going to get. And that payback is you sitting in that jail cell right now, my friend, spending Christmas in jail. Merry Christmas, Jean Luc Brunel. Whatever the equivalent of bologna sandwiches is, I hope that's what you're getting in your French jail cell. I hope that you're having the most miserable Christmas in the history of miserable Christmases. Jean Luc Brunel, the septuagenarian French co-owner of MC2 modeling agency and Karen Models, has filed a lawsuit against his convicted pal Epstein for supposedly losing him millions in profits and sending him into deep depression. He's displaying the prescriptions and psychotherapy forms to prove it. Aw, poor Jean Luc Brunel. His relationship with Jeffrey Epstein made him depressed and he had to be on all kinds of prescriptions, and he had psychotherapy forms that he provided. Oh, I'm just so gutted for him. I mean, don't you all just feel so terrible for Jean Luc Brunel? Especially Monday morning quarterbacking the situation, especially using hindsight as our guide. This guy was a piece of garbage then, and he's a piece of garbage now. His reputation didn't need Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting fingerprints on it to be ruined. Even if Jeffrey Epstein and this dude never crossed paths, this dude would still have to answer for what he did to Thisia and to all of the other models who came forward from France and elsewhere who said that he abused them. So while the Jeffrey Epstein stink on you makes your turd doubly atrocious, that is not what destroyed your reputation. Your reputation was destroyed because you're an absolute scumbag, sir. Okay? Point blank, period. And he's also picking a fight with a no-name hosting website for tarring his rep. I mean, that is the biggest mistake one of these so-called elites could possibly make. Giving publicity to an independent content creator or a web host, an unnamed, no-name web host. The last thing you want to do is give them that notoriety. But these people aren't as smart as we give them credit for, or as people give them credit for. Sure, they're shrewd and they're great when they're on the offensive, but when you put these people on their back heel and you go on the offensive and you start throwing the punches, it is a whole different ballgame. And we're seeing that play out in real time. Look at Prince Andrew. The narrative was fantastic when they were in control of it, right? They could say whatever they want, pop out their press releases, and be done with it. But not anymore. Even Emily Maitlis challenged him. And we're seeing that more and more. The narrative being snatched from these people, them being put on the defensive, and them not knowing what in the hell to do when the barrage comes. When they start getting kicked with, getting hit with leg kicks and all of these, legal punches, and they don't know what to do because they've been in the driver's seat for so long. They've never had the shoe on the other foot. Nobody's ever tied up their Timbos and took these dudes out behind the woodshed. And I don't mean literally, I'm talking about in the courtroom, right? That's never happened to these people. Their narrative's never been challenged. They've always had these high-profile lawyers. They've always had all of these politicians and people that were well-placed that would put in a good word for them or, even finagle the situation. You all know how I feel about Mukasey. You all know how I feel about the whole situation. And those are the kind of people that we see throughout history protecting these people. But now it's starting to seem like the wheels are coming off for them, right? Most certainly as far as the Epstein case goes. Look where we're at. Nobody would have believed Ghislaine Maxwell and Jean Luc Brunel would be sitting in jail a mere year later since Epstein so-called suicide. I used to get people that would be all kinds of cynical about this case. And I am too, right? How can you not be? But they just wouldn't accept the fact that Maxwell was going to end up getting arrested. And as I dug deeper into the case and I started to look at all of the different crimes that were allegedly committed, I knew that this case had big-time legs. And I knew that the prosecutors, if they were doing their job correctly, were building a huge, vast case against these people. Because not only is there a mountain of evidence, this is a big-time win for the Department of Justice and for the SDNY, right? The public wants this. This behooves them. This gives them credibility and some social credit with the public if they could put these people in prison. So you know that they want to put them in prison as well. And I thought that with the RICO law and some of the tools that the prosecutors had in their toolbox, that we would eventually get to the point where we saw these kind of people arrested. And I still believe that we'll see the Core Four also arrested. Now, as far as the other folks, the Dubins of the world and the Les Wexners, you all know I'm not so confident in that. Unless there is a large, encompassing financial investigation underway as well. Because if that's the case, and they could bust Indike, and they bring Indike in and put him to the screws, you don't think he's going to rat on some of these people that he knew that they were in business with? Hell yeah, I definitely think he would. So as far as those people go, the Dubins and the Wexners of the world, I'm not too sure if they're going to be brought to justice, folks. I just want everyone to be prepared for that eventuality like we've talked about, right? You know I don't sit here and blow smoke up your asses. I tell you folks exactly how I feel, what my opinions are, and, we go from there. So I think that there's a chance some of these people could end up in serious legal jeopardy, but I am almost sure that the Core Four is about to suffer a real rough year in 2021. The fall from grace over the past 6 months for the 21-year-old Brunel has been steep. The man who claims he discovered and molded the careers of Christy Turlington, Sharon Stone, and Mila Jovovich is apparently panicking and fears his modeling agency, MC2, may be underwater, according to the lawsuit. Imagine that's what he was worried about in 2015. His modeling agency being underwater. Now this scumbag is sitting in a jail cell, certainly not enjoying his Christmas, that's for sure. And his modeling agency is the last thing on his mind. In the suit, which was filed in a Florida court in January, Brunel paints a grim snapshot of his personal hell and claims it's all because of one man, the guy with the ear-to-ear grin, Jeffrey Epstein. Attempts to reach Epstein's attorney for comment were unsuccessful. Well, I don't know how hard it would be to reach Epstein's attorney for comment. Alan Dershowitz shows up everywhere running his fat yap. He was on MSNBC all the time, CNN, Fox News, you name it. And now he's on that storied channel. Oh, Newsmax, what a great outlet. What a balanced outlet that just fires off the facts. Yikes. What an absolute dumpster fire Newsmax is. What an absolute dumpster fire MSNBC is. And Alan Dershowitz? Well, I won't even get into that idiot. Once Epstein landed back in the news over allegations he and his rich, powerful friends bedded underage girls, Brunel seems to have become radioactive. Oh yeah, it was just because of Epstein, huh? And again, remember, this is 5 years ago, so we have hindsight guiding us, and look how much more we know now. Look how they would just scratch the surface with Brunel, not bringing up any, of the other situations that he was involved in, and, they might later on in the article, but it's just telling when you read these articles and you see how the conversation was framed back then, or how little the legacy media really knew, because they never really truly investigated more than just scratching the surface. It wouldn't take much to understand just how locked in and how connected Brunel and Jeffrey Epstein were. Just take a look at how many times Brunel went to see Epstein while he was in jail, or the fact that it's rumored that Brunel was staying at the Palm Beach mansion while Epstein was in jail. So these two dudes were very close. Everybody knew it. In the lawsuit, Brunel says he can't recruit anymore because the European gals know how to search his name online. Oh, hold on. Let's read that again, okay? This is the greatest thing that's ever happened, if that's the case. Talk about stranger danger personified. Talk about the bat signal of stranger danger. Girls are Googling this guy and they're seeing what's going on and they're like, oh yeah, Jean Luc Brunel, sick bastard, not messing with him. And in this sick bastard's mind, he's so narcissistic, he's so wrapped up in himself and so full of hubris that even though he knows he's a pervert, even though he knows that he was involved in this stuff, he's going to act offended and put in a lawsuit that the European girls Google him and his reputation is tarnished, and because of that, he's losing business. Newsflash, dickhead. You should be losing business, and these girls should be Googling you. And their fathers? Well, their fathers should have beat the shit out of you as well. Molesting their kids. 3 12-year-olds sold to you. We sure got ourselves quite a disgusting world, don't we, folks? Some of these people that share our air are absolutely beyond the pale, lowest rung, worst sort of individuals in the history of the world. In South America, moms refuse to entrust their daughters with a man who has been branded a sex trafficker. Brunel has denied he has supplied girls for Epstein or his pals. The effects, Brunel says, have him bleeding millions. Nobody cares. Nobody cared then, and nobody cares now. Bleeding millions. Let me play the world's smallest violin for you. This guy is an unbelievably sick person. And the audacity that it takes to put this kind of stuff in a court filing, especially knowing, I mean, how do you look in the mirror, right? You know what you have done. These girls know what you have done. The rest of us might not be able to prove it right now, but how do you look at yourself in the mirror after you do this to somebody? How can you go around providing girls to Jeffrey Epstein, abusing them yourself, all of this other weird, wild, gross shit, and look at yourself in the mirror? But yet, we have people like this all over the place. You want to really flip yourself out? Google sex offenders in your area or something like that, right? And just about everywhere has a map with all of the registered sex offenders in your neighborhood listed. And it's a sobering thing to do. It's pretty scary and pretty sad, to be honest with you, that there's that many people who are registered sex offenders. So it's a prevalent problem, and a lot more so than I ever knew. If I never stumbled into this case face first the way I did, I would have never had any idea how big of a problem all of this was. Now he's rolling the dice in civil court. His lawsuit is loaded with jaw-dropping accusations, spelling out how Brunel has become a pariah in the fashion world, is dealing with visa troubles, takes prescription pills to deal with depression, and is convinced that Jeffrey Epstein and a small, no-named Canadian website and its founder are the culprits behind his misery. See, what he tried to do here was use Jeffrey Epstein as a scapegoat, if you could believe it, right? Epstein was already radioactive. Epstein was already glowing. What did it matter if some girls Googled Epstein and found out that he was a sex offender? It wouldn't matter if Brunel was still supplying them girls, right? So, it's laughable to me that this guy would try this strategy to make anyone believe that just his ties to Epstein alone is what made him a pariah, and this is all Jeffrey Epstein's fault. And Mr. Poor Jean Luc Brunel had no idea what he was getting involved in, and he had no idea what Jeffrey Epstein was. Meanwhile, this guy is engaged in his own decades-long run of sexual abuse and assault. But what's most incredible is Brunel implicates himself and his once close pal Epstein on possibly committing blatant obstruction of justice. Well, there's no doubt that Epstein, every single time Epstein had any kind of issue in the court, he engaged in obstruction, paying people off, witness tampering, all of it. Indike and Khan as well. Indike especially. And they never paid any penalties for that. You know what happens if the mafia does that? If the mafia leans on a witness, or if the mafia tries to get somebody to change their story? Oh yeah, it becomes even more of a RICO case. But not Epstein. Not Epstein at all. Him and Jean Luc Brunel, they were engaged in obstruction for sure. Not even a question. The fall into severe emotional stress, Brunel alleges in the lawsuit, is all because of his association with the convicted Palm Beach sex offender. Epstein's conduct was the direct cause of Brunel's psychological state. Let me break it down for you, okay? Because of Jeffrey Epstein's conduct, Jean Luc Brunel lost his mind. All because of what Epstein did. Not because Brunel was engaged in it. Not because Brunel was doing it. Oh, no. Just because Brunel was hanging out with Epstein. And the stink of Epstein was enough to ruin Brunel's career. That's what they would want you to believe in this lawsuit. Talk about asinine. How much do these people pay for these lawyers again? Because I don't know if they're getting their money's worth. And that goes for Ghislaine Maxwell too. If I was paying all of this money for these lawyers, and I was coming up with bupkis, I'd be trying to find a new lawyer probably. A Bruce Cutler kind of lawyer, you know, the dude that got Gotti off all of those times. Because they're not going to get off because they're innocent, right? They're certainly not getting off because they're innocent. They better find a technicality. Epstein's conduct was the direct cause of Brunel's psychological state. The press reporting was extensively on the lurid details of Epstein's illegal activities with the underage girls, the paper says. So it was the media as well. Them reporting on it played a part in Brunel's mental breakdown. And anyone who talked about this should probably feel bad because Jean Luc Brunel had a mental breakdown. According to his lawyers, according to whatever hand-picked doctors were cherry-picked. You want to talk about emotional distress? You sick bastard? Go take a look at what these girls have went through. Go and listen to some of their stories. Go and hear about how they had to turn to drugs or alcohol or other risky behavior to try and escape from their own heads because what you were engaged in, because of what you participated in. So don't even attempt to make us feel bad for you and to act like it's just because of what Epstein did. You have your own skeletons in your closet, your own crimes to answer for, and you're just as radioactive, you sick son of a bitch. The modeling magnate has since been on medications to deal with the effects of this, and has also turned to psychotherapy. Yeah, well, maybe you should start with chemically castrating yourself. That's probably a good idea. Psychotherapy. Please, these people are not reformable in my opinion. When you're one of these kind of sex offenders, somebody who is prolific and does it all the time, it's like a serial killer, right? You don't stop. You don't retire. You either die or you get caught. Brunel submitted in his lawsuit his actual clinical depression diagnosis of 6 to 7 on a scale of 0 to 10. And that he's been able to get through nights with the sleep aid. Yeah, welcome to the real world, pal. You know how many people have to take sleep aids every single night? Not because they're sick perverts either, but because they don't know how they're going to feed their kids the next day. And they can't get out of their own minds long enough to make the anxiety stop running a marathon in their head. You think you got problems, my friend? Try being poor. Try not knowing where your next meal's coming from. Try not knowing how you're going to pay your rent or how you're going to tell your kid, there's no Christmas this year, kiddo. Sorry about that. You think you got problems? 6 or a 7 on a scale of 0 to 10. What is it like when you go to the doctor and they show you the little picture? Show me on this picture what kind of pain you're in. Well, obviously I'm in a lot of pain, dickhead. I'm here, right? According to the Frenchman's Fort Lauderdale doctor, Royce N. Gelazzo, Brunel needs psychotherapy due to a subjective sense of depression related to what he believes is a loss of business and is in his modeling agency as a result of slander published against his business. So if it's slander and none of this shit is true, then sue everybody. What are you waiting for? Jean Luc Brunel? What are you waiting for? You can't sue nobody. You cannot sue nobody over this because you know that shit is true, and you know the day in court will come and your time will come where you'll get blasted. It'll be proven that what is said was true, and your lawsuit will be proven to be frivolous. So you're not going to sue nobody, right? Because you know it's true, and you'll just say it's slander. You'll say it's defamation. You'll try and muddy the waters, and you'll not provide any receipts. Meanwhile, there are multiple girls coming forward and women that you abuse them. Brunel says his choir boy image was shattered once he was fingered falsely, he claims. His choir boy image in 2015. Am I the only one who remembers the 60 Minutes in like 1988 that talked about this disgusting guy? Or the book that put him on blast? His sparkling image, huh? Yeah, this guy's a pillar of society. I mean, he is just a modern day Buddha. The pillar of society, folks. Nothing wrong with him. Just such a great guy. As the proprietor of young talent for Epstein and others to allegedly prey upon. Yet Brunel was accused of the sexual harassment of models as far back as 1988 by a blockbuster 60 Minutes profile. A decade later, he was named in a BBC expose on modeling agencies that exploit very young girls, according to Ian Halpern's book, The Bold and Beautiful, Inside the Dazzling and Deadly World of Supermodels. And we've covered Brunel at length, and we covered that very article. Maybe I'll repost that one again as a flashback, but all of the accounts that are on the record about Brunel are disturbing. They've been disturbing for a very long time, and the fact that he tried to sue Jeffrey Epstein and take some of that spotlight off of his own crimes is like a top shelf narcissistic move, in my opinion. According to another court document reviewed by the Daily Beast, at least one alleged Epstein survivor has accused Brunel of bringing young girls, ranging to ages as young as 12, to the United States for sexual purposes and farming them out to his friends, especially Epstein. Now, we know that person is Virginia, who came out and made this statement that the Daily Beast is talking about here. In his lawsuit, Brunel implies that because of these allegations, he has lost considerable time and money by being unable to get a visa to come and go from the U.S. as he pleases. Yeah, no shit. Glad you should have never had one in the first place. The second one of these allegations was made against him, a full, far-ranging investigation should have been kicked off. And he should have never been allowed to come in the country. Nobody cares that you're losing money. You sick bastard. You mean the money that you got from Jeffrey Epstein's ill-gotten gains? Every dollar this guy has in America should be seized. Brunel has been forced to cancel his latest visa applications as a result of the delays, the lawsuit says. And the broke Brunel says that the monetary damages he's suffering to this day are going to force him to pony up lots of cash to get out of the red. Again, the least of your problems. I hope you didn't pony that cash up yet. I hope you have that cash stored away for a rainy day. Jean Luc Brunel, you're going to need it. You are going to need it. Brunel will need to spend millions of dollars in order to restore his business to what it once was worth. Money that Brunel does not have. Well, guess what? That's called the market, right? That's capitalism. Your company is no longer viable. You will be knocked out of the marketplace, and someone better and brighter will come along to take your place. Welcome to the real world, Jean Luc. And furthermore, again, you're going to need a lot more money than what you were going to need to get your business out of the red to fight these charges. And you better hope and pray that the United States can't figure out a way to get you extradited to the United States, because I got news for you, my friend. It's not a 15-year sentence in the United States of America for raping a kid. And if you bring 12 of them, three 12-year-olds over here to be abused, you could tack on another 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 100. So you better hope that your ass stays in France. Also included in the lawsuits are medical exhibits of various prescriptions for Prozac and Rivotril that bear Brunel's name on a label from a Bangkok hospital. What? You're from France, bro. Why are you going to Bangkok to get your medical profile worked up, to get your mental profile worked up? I'm sure Bangkok's a solid place, right? I'm not trying to demean Bangkok, but I'm wondering why a guy like Jean Luc Brunel, with the means and all of the ability to travel wherever he wanted, why would he go to Bangkok for that? Why not go to your home country with a doctor you have a relationship with already and speak with that doctor and get those prescriptions from a psychologist home? But no, he goes to Bangkok? Again, none of this shit makes sense, but it does make sense. The fact that we have these folks, Epstein and friends, all of these scumbags in Thailand a bunch of times now, multiple times now. So that Thailand story is something we're going to have to dive into soon. Definitely it's on the back burner. It's added to the list of get-tos. And there's, a lot going on in Thailand with this story, considering how often these people were going there. As it turns out, it's not just Epstein that Brunel is beefing with. He also blames his woes on a Canadian-based hosting website called yi.org, which he says runs stories about escorts and Epstein on the various sites it allegedly hosts. Oh no, someone's running stories about Epstein? Well, duh, you dumb asshole. It's news. People want to know about it. People want to know this sort of shit, especially when they start to find out the details. The lawsuit calls out Tyler McDonald, who Brunel says is the owner of yi.org, for hosting hyperlinks that Brunel contends damaged Brunel's reputation as an owner of a well-established modeling agency. You know what always cracks me up? Oh, the posts were the ones and the sites were the ones that ruined my credibility and they ruined my reputation. Bro, you ruined your reputation when you started abusing people. You ruined your reputation when you started hanging out with Epstein. You did it. It's not the media's fault for reporting on it, as long as they do it fairly. It's not the media's fault for bringing it to light. It is your fault. Take some responsibility. Never mind the stories about Brunel on sites like Jezebel, HuffPo, and the aforementioned 60 Minutes. It's yi.org that apparently got his goat. In about 2009, yi.org, by and through the actions of its owner, McDonald, began hosting websites that contained hyperlinks that contained blatantly false and extremely disparaging information about Brunel, the lawsuit says. Oh yeah, I bet you that aged well. I bet you that kind of shit has aged well after all we know about Brunel now, and especially now that he's in jail. Who's the idiot now? Jean Luc? A screen grab of the sites allegedly hosted by yi.org and included in the lawsuit show Brunel's name splashed under racy headlines like Miami Beach, Florida escorts and escort girls in Florida, among others. So I'm not too familiar with this website, and I'm not too sure what they were getting at, but anyone who is posting links about Jean Luc Brunel's behavior, I think that's a good thing. In the past 6 months, Brunel claims in the lawsuit he's been alienated by everybody in the fashion business, from photographers to international scouts. And he says he can't get fresh faces to replenish MC2's modeling stable. Who would want to send their kid to work with this guy? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? Nobody. Crickets all around. Nobody sending you their kid. Screw your company. I hope that while you're in jail, it crumbles, every last bit of it. And I hope at some point that scuzzbag Mnuchin has to answer for his involvement with you scumbags as well. While Brunel has previously denied that Epstein gave him seed money to found MC Squared, in the new lawsuit, Brunel claims that a year after opening the shop, he received a letter of credit from Epstein at 5% interest. Brunel says he chipped in $1 million of his own money. But that seed capital evaporated, he says, after false links between Brunel and Epstein began to gain strength online. Brunel is not a very good liar. He's not very good at this game. He's not good at being put on the spot. He's very Prince Andrew-ish, in fact. And that's why he's been so quiet as well. That's why we hadn't seen the dude. That's why he never came forward to answer any questions. Dude's a moron. That's my opinion. Attempts to merge with Elite Models Paris also tanked, and Brunel's $1 million was gone. Moreover, Brunel contends that because of Epstein's sexual deviance, he's lost potentially $10 million in profits due to this $1 million loss. It's insane. It is absolutely insane that this guy would have the audacity to look at Jeffrey Epstein and say, because of your reputation. Now, don't get me wrong. Epstein's reputation is not good for Jean Luc Brunel. It's not a good weight to be hanging around his shoulders. But my point is, you have your own crimes to answer for, you sick bastard. And in this lawsuit, you're just putting yourself on blast for people to take a look at you, cock their eye, and wonder if you have brain damage. The lawsuit claims that Jolanta Sadaskin, owner of Modelinos agency in Lithuania, informed Brunel that a prime recruit walked after she said she found some article on the internet. The same thing happened with Vladimir Yudishkin, director of Ukrainian-based One Mother agency, who last October delivered Brunel bad news when a model they hoped would sign rejected. Hallelujah. Good for those models. And now, I'm not saying any of these other modeling agencies are better. I don't know one way or the other. I'm not saying they're worse either, by the way. But what I do know is this is a prevalent problem in the modeling world, and it needs to be addressed. And these agencies need to provide better protection to their clients. Initially, she intended to sign the contract, but later she came across that article on the internet about you involved in illegal activities with young models, Yudishkin said, according to the lawsuit. Mothers of models in Brazil apparently won't deal with Brunel either. Yeah, he's lucky. You better not forget the mothers in Brazil. What happens when Pops double legs you, takes you to the ground and rips your arm off and beats you to death with it? Making a big mistake down there trying to molest these kids, boy, I'll tell you what. Brunel says that Sandra Petkanik of the Fox Fashion Agency wrote him in a letter. We can't place any new faces with you because the parents will refuse, and it makes us look bad to propose the girls to your agency. The fact that they would even answer him, you just ghost him. All of these people should have ghosted him. He would have got the idea. And I like to hear that the parents wouldn't let their kids go. That's refreshing. Imagine being a parent and hearing that this is the dude that's in charge of the modeling agency that your daughter's going to work at. Yeah, that would ever happen. On MC Square's website, the agency says it continues to keep its doors open in New York. A staffer there defended Brunel when the Daily Beast visited its offices last month during a separate investigation into the death of beloved model and party promoter Pedro Gaspar, who overdosed in his apartment directly upstairs from MC Squared. I don't know anything about that, so I won't even touch it. The modeling agency's website also says it has annexes in Miami and in Tel Aviv. Does that shock anybody? You know, you got to have your office in Tel Aviv so your boy Ehud Barak can get hooked up correctly, right? We know he's a sick bastard, according to Virginia. We know that he was caught at Epstein's and other properties. So, yeah, I'm not shocked about Tel Aviv. We know that. And Miami, too. Got to be close to your boy Epstein, right? Had to be close down to Epstein. When the Daily Beast attempted to reach Brunel at his New York office for comment on the lawsuit, a woman answering the phone said her boss wasn't even in the U.S. Jean Luc Brunel is not in town. He's in South America. His lawyer also confirmed that his client was not in the country. Dude knew even back then not to be in this country. Dude knew he had the writing was on the wall, and Brunel's time was short. Did it take a little bit longer than we all would want? Of course. But guess what? At the end of the day, this rat bastard, this narcissist, this arrogant son of a bitch is sitting in a jail cell. Brunel, in his lawsuit, makes a bid to absolve himself entirely from involvement in Epstein's alleged underage sex parties. That's not what they were. Sex parties, that was occurring, right? But this was a flat-out trafficking ring, folks. Brunel has clean hands and was never involved in sex trafficking, the papers say. Oh, absolutely clean hands. We're talking, again, a pillar of the community, a man above reproach. Meanwhile, the dude's as scummy as they come. Smells like an overflowed porta potty. And is an absolute moron to boot. It adds, Epstein's illegal activities were outrageous and extreme. They involved receiving massages from underage girls while the girls were nude or nearly nude, penetration of the girls with a finger or object, or full intercourse. Epstein pleaded guilty to soliciting a minor child for prostitution in 2008. So again, he's calling Epstein, Epstein's a sick bastard, blah, 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 blah. And again, of course he is. But for this guy to be leveling those charges, it is absurd, okay? Absolutely absurd and gross. In the lawsuit's kookiest claim, Brunel seems to throw both himself and Epstein into possibly more legal trouble by suggesting the pair colluded in dodging a federal deposition. Oh, another one, huh? Ghislaine's mom was sick. I can't go to the deposition. Brunel has still never been deposed. And to think that him and Epstein engaged in a bit of legal screwery as they colluded to dodge a deposition? Oh, that doesn't seem like it falls far from the mark. Brunel was subpoenaed to testify in Epstein's federal civil cases by lawyers for various alleged survivors back in November of 2009. At the time, Brunel, who had already demanded and been granted a delay to be deposed, informed the lawyers that he couldn't make the mandatory meeting. Must be nice, huh? Yeah, I'm not going to be able to make that deposition, y'all. I got better things to do. I'm going to fly to France. I got some, cheese to eat. I'm going to go down to the coast. I mean, what do you mean you can't make it? In a separate court document acquired by the Daily Beast, the lawyers for at least one alleged survivor claim Brunel made false representations when he said he couldn't make the depositions. They also asked the judge to sanction him. Oh, sanction him. Oh, he's really scared. Mr. Rich Guy's really scared of your sanctions. Give me a break. Arrest him, okay? That's what should have happened in America as well. Brunel's latest lawsuit claims he was told to flee the country once the subpoenas were handed down. Brunel was told by Epstein to leave the Palm Beach area in anticipation of a deposition of plaintiff Brunel in a criminal case against Epstein. So he colluded with Epstein to withhold evidence here. He colluded with Epstein to not be deposed, and then he fled when he knew that authorities would be looking for him. A pillar of the community, they say. Brunel says that a medical emergency in the family of his attorney caused further delay, and Brunel lost a huge opportunity to clear his name and that of his agency, MC². A medical emergency in the family of his attorney. My attorney's wife's cousin's friend had a toenail that was ingrown. So that's why I couldn't make the deposition. This is the kind of shit they were let get away with for all of these years. This is why so many people are fired up right now. This is why so many people are pissed off. And thus, he never made good on the subpoena. It was never rescheduled and he was never deposed. Think about that. The allegations that Virginia has made, and this dude has never even been deposed. Thankfully, he's in jail now, right? Thankfully, hopefully he's going to get convicted, but thankfully, he's now starting to understand that there are repercussions for his shitbag behavior. The lawsuit announces this was a blatant example of obstruction of justice in the criminal case. Dissuading Brunel from testifying and convincing him to skip town could amount to a jailable offense, Peter Lushing, who teaches criminal procedure at Cardozo Law School, told the Daily Beast. If you encourage people who appear as witnesses in prosecutions to leave to evade subpoenas, that could easily be considered obstruction of justice. And it most certainly was obstruction of justice. Epstein was engaging in that all the time. How many times was he involved in witness tampering? How many times did he pay people off? And this is just another layer to the story, folks. Another thread that had to be pulled on. And more context to the sordid, disgusting, parasitic relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Jean Luc Brunel. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. And once again, everybody, Merry Christmas. I hope that you folks all had an amazing day. And I will be back tomorrow, and we will pick up where we left off.